Sweeping and extraordinary measures to deal with coronavirus, the forced closure of pubs, restaurants and gyms, and an unprecedented rescue package for workers and businesses. Life in our public places is shrinking out of all recognition as the Prime Minister pleaded with people to stay at home.
You may think that you're invincible, but there is no guarantee that you will get mild symptoms, and you can still be a carrier of the disease and pass it on to others.
It came as the government promised to pay all employees 80% of their salary, up to £2,500 a month. An unprecedented move, said the Chancellor.
Today I can announce that for the first time in our history, the government is going to step in and help to pay people's wages.
But for businesses across the country, there's huge anxiety.
I'm going to be honest, I'm struggling to hold it together at the moment, and it's not going to just be me, it's going to be all of us.
We will have reaction from our correspondents across the UK. A major London hospital becomes the first in the UK to temporarily run out of critical care capacity for coronavirus patients. And the Derbyshire village, which sealed itself off 3 centuries ago because of the plague and its response to the coronavirus.
Later on BBC London, an empty West End on a Friday night as last orders are called on pubs, clubs and restaurants. We'll hear how the coronavirus shutdown will impact businesses.
Good evening. The coronavirus crisis is changing life as we know it dramatically tonight after the government ordered the immediate closure of almost all the places we go to for leisure, with bars, pubs, restaurants and gyms among them. The radical move came with an equally radical package of financial help from the Chancellor to try to protect businesses, jobs and the vulnerable. Rishi Sunak declared that never before had there been state intervention on this scale in this country. He announced that the government would pay up to 80% of people's wages, up to a maximum of £2,500 a month, to those whose jobs are at risk. And the Prime Minister Boris Johnson demanded the immediate shutting down across the UK of the vast majority of places where we socialise and exercise. The measures, unprecedented in their scale and scope, came as government advisers issued a sobering warning. They said unnecessary social contact will have to be avoided for the best part of a year to prevent NHS intensive care units from being overwhelmed. The latest figures show that there have been 3,983 confirmed coronavirus cases in the UK, although experts think that the total number is considerably higher. And there have been 177 deaths. With our first report this evening, here's our political correspondent, Alex Forsyth.
This will be a familiar sight across the country from tomorrow. Restaurants, cafes, pubs, clubs, all shut down, no longer by choice, now by command. The impact enormous for business, having to cope with the doors closed, and for workers who will have nowhere to go. The Prime Minister said these were the next necessary steps to try and slow the spread of this virus.
We are collectively telling cafes, pubs, bars and restaurants to close tonight as soon as they reasonably can, and not to open tomorrow, though to be clear, they can continue to provide take-out services. We're also telling nightclubs, theatres, cinemas, gyms and leisure centres to close on the same timescale.
A serious moment matched by a significant intervention from the Chancellor, a package worth billions, not just for employers, but those losing work and wages too.
Well, that's the view from Harrogate. Let's speak now to our correspondents around the UK. Lorna Gordon is in Glasgow for us, Emma Vardy is in Belfast, and Helena Wilkinson is in central London. First to Lorna.
This street on a Friday night, this street in Glasgow would normally be packed with people enjoying a drink or having a meal with family and friends, but not tonight and not for the foreseeable future. In a televised address, Scotland's First Minister reiterating that message, asking pubs, clubs, bars, cafes to close. In comments she made earlier, she also made clear that she was worried that younger people in particular were not heeding the message to socially distance. Well, it is quiet here tonight, but it is not completely deserted, and there's a range of opinions from those we've been speaking to. Some people saying the measures being brought in are a good idea, others not so keen, all of them saying that tonight is a last hurrah.
And Emma Vardy is in Belfast for us.
Well, look, Belfast saw its quietest St Patrick's Day this week in memory when many of the pubs then or that night decided to voluntarily close. Some of those in the city centre did decide to remain open. They came in for a bit of criticism for that as people become increasingly anxious about seeing people gathering. Tonight there are a few people still left in those remaining few pubs which are still open, making the most of the final few hours here in Belfast. The Wetherspoons just down the road, that was kicking people out early tonight over the last hour, closing early as a result of the earlier announcement, they told us. But of course here in Northern Ireland there has been increasing pressure all this week for pubs to close, simply because in the Republic of Ireland, well, the pubs were asked to close much earlier. The order was given there from Sunday, and more than 7,000 of them closed their doors. Pubs in Dublin we've even seen getting boarded up. But that moment, well, it has now come for Northern Ireland, for pubs to call time. Something that would have seemed almost unthinkable a couple of weeks ago in what is usually a very lively city. But another step that I think will just bring the reality home to people once again.
And Helena Wilkinson in central London.
Well, Rita, this is the heart of London, Leicester Square, on a normal Friday night. The bars, the restaurants, the pubs around here would be packed full of people. The streets would be full of people. Not tonight. It is deserted apart from a few people wandering around, and these are far from normal times. Now, some of the venues here had closed before the Prime Minister made that announcement on the new restrictions. There are still a couple of them open. There are still people in some of the pubs and restaurants around here, but there is evidence that these restrictions are taking effect. You walk around and you can see signs that have been put up in windows of restaurants telling customers that they are shutting, and as the closing time inches closer, the owners of these venues are trying to digest the news that they will be shutting tonight with no idea at all as to when they will next reopen. These new restrictions, another example of the enormous impact that this virus is having on all of our lives.
Helena, thank you. Helena Wilkinson, Emma Vardy and Lorna Gordon, thank you. Back now to those sweeping measures announced by the Chancellor Rishi Sunak, who said there'll be no limit to the funds that he'll make available to get the UK economy and its workers through the coronavirus crisis. In a move never seen before, the government will help to pay the wages of millions of workers in the private sector. They'll pay 80% of their salaries, up to £2,500 a month, backdated to the 1st of March. It will ensure that people retain their jobs, even if their employers can't afford to pay them. Alongside that, companies will have their VAT payments deferred until the end of June, and for the next 12 months, universal credit will be increased by £1,000 for the year. Mr Sunak said he was introducing unprecedented measures for unprecedented times. Our business editor Simon Jack reports. Spain today became the 4th country to register over 1,000 deaths from the coronavirus after China, Italy and Iran. There are now almost 20,000 confirmed cases in Spain, with 1,002 deaths, almost a quarter of those in the past day. Many British nationals are stuck in Malaga in southern Spain, from where our Europe correspondent Damien Grammaticus reports.
Due to exceptional circumstances.
On the loudspeaker, warnings that hardly seem necessary in a half-empty airport.
Maintaining a personal distance of 1 meter.
The queue is for the flight to London. It's sold out. People scrambling to get back while they can. The last tickets going dear.
Up to £1,000, I thought. I'll stick with Ryanair and try and find my way back down to Brighton.
So you're okay then? You're getting back?
Who knows? Who knows?
In the middle of it all, we found Jean and Phillida. Jean's almost 90. Here for the winter sun, she's already had 3 flights back cancelled.
My daughter, in Wales, you know, she's getting upset. I just want you home, Mum. I just wanted to, you should have come home before.
Phillida is 86. Her family have been begging her to come home too.
I got 20 grandchildren, 16 great, 6 great, I'm 5 generation, and they're all, oh, why don't you come home, you know, why don't you come home? So here we are, coming home.
And there's one thing she's looking forward to.
Hopefully now I'll be going home to a lovely roast dinner. Oh, big slice of beef with all the lovely cabbage from the garden and everything like that, you know, whatever.
So today, flights to the UK were still running, but next week there may be even fewer, leaving tough choices for those still here.
We have enough food for maybe another 4 or 5 days.
Because of her dogs, the only way Alison Thompson can get home is by ferry. She worries about being on a ship with up to 2,000 other people. Would that be safe? And she'd have to cross Spain to get to it.
Iran's health ministry said today that on average 1 person was dying every 10 minutes from the coronavirus and that around 50 people were being infected every hour. There are currently just under 20,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Iran and 1,433 deaths. And there's been another sharp increase in the number of deaths in Italy. 627 people have died from the virus there in the past 24 hours. Further restrictions have been imposed on the population, with some of the country's regions banning walks in the park, jogging and bike rides. The coronavirus crisis is particularly poignant for the small Derbyshire village of Eyam. Here, more than 3 centuries ago, residents infected with the Black Plague took the heroic decision to seal themselves off to prevent the disease from spreading to other communities. Hundreds died, but as Fergal Keeler, their legacy is inspiring Eyam's response to the coronavirus.
In a crisis that reaches everywhere.
I think that's it. I got Spain, Italy.
Lessons for us all.
That's it, babe. Thank you, honey.
In Derbyshire, the memory of lives lost centuries
The
ago
plague.
is motivating
The
our
Black
response
Plague.
to the present. You might think that coming to Eyam, a place so associated with plague and death, heighten anxiety in these